The message arrived at midnight on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Velrath Sindori was sleeping in his quarters when his personal assistant woke him with urgent news. A survey vessel in the outer reach had found something. They had found a new species. Velrath rubbed his four eyes and sat up slowly. His blue scales caught the soft light of his room. In his 300 years of service to the Covenant of United Species, he had seen many things. New species were discovered every few decades. It was usually a simple matter. The Covenant would send diplomats. They would explain the rules of civilized space. The new species would join, or they would be left alone to develop. Nothing complicated, but his assistant's face told him this was different. "Show me the report," Velrath said. The holographic display flickered to life above his desk. He read the first few lines and felt his stomach turn cold. The survey team was requesting immediate evacuation. They were afraid. The Covenant survey teams were not easily frightened. They were trained professionals who had explored the darkest corners of the galaxy. They had encountered hostile life forms, dangerous environments, and cosmic horrors that would break lesser minds. Yet here they were, begging to be rescued from a species that had only achieved faster than light travel 300 years ago. Velrath dressed quickly and made his way to the council chambers. The halls of the great building were empty at this hour, but he could see lights turning on in other sections. He was not the only one who had been woken. The Council of 12 governed the Covenant. They represented the founding species who had created galactic civilization over 10,000 years ago. They had built an empire of peace that stretched across 12 spiral arms and 4 million worlds. They had seen everything, or so they thought. When Velrath entered the chamber, 5 of the 12 council members were already present. More were arriving every minute. Grand Admiral Threx of the Vorn military stood near the main display, his massive armored form casting long shadows across the floor. High Priestess Yenna of the Celestial Order sat in quiet meditation, her pale skin glowing faintly with inner light. Chief Scientist Morath of the Analytical Collective was already studying the data, his 8 mechanical arms manipulating multiple screens at once. "What do we know?" Velrath asked. Morath turned one of his optical sensors toward the ambassador. "The species calls itself human. They originate from a planet they name Earth, orbiting an ordinary yellow star in the outer regions of the galaxy. Their territory currently encompasses 47 star systems. They achieved interstellar travel approximately 300 standard years ago." "That is not remarkable," Admiral Threx said. His voice was deep and rumbling, like stones grinding together. "Why has this caused such alarm?" "Because nothing about them makes sense," Morath replied. He pulled up a biological scan on the main display. The creature shown was bipedal, with 2 arms, 2 eyes, and soft skin. It looked fragile, weak. Their average lifespan is 120 standard years. The chamber went silent. Velrath felt his scales tighten against his body. 120 years. That was nothing. Most civilized species live for at least 1,000 years. The Kethmari, his own people, regularly reach 1,500. How could any species achieve space travel in such a short time? "That cannot be correct," High Priestess Yenna said softly. "A species with such short lives would never have time to develop the knowledge needed for interstellar travel. They would die before completing their education." "And yet they have done it," Morath said. "But that is not the most disturbing element of the report." He changed the display to show the planet Earth. "This is their home world." Velrath studied the image. It was a small, rocky planet with large oceans and varied terrain. Mountains, deserts, forests, ice caps. The axial tilt was severe, causing extreme seasonal changes. The tectonic plates were active, causing frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The atmosphere contained a gas called oxygen, which was highly reactive and potentially toxic. This world is classified as a Category 7 death world, Morath continued. It experiences constant environmental hazards, extreme temperature variations, massive storms. The planet itself is trying to kill everything on it at all times. No intelligent species has ever evolved on a death world, Admiral Threx said. It is not possible. The survival pressures are too extreme. Creatures on such worlds must dedicate all their energy to simply staying alive. Humans did not just evolve on this world, Morris said. They became its dominant species. They conquered every environment on it. They spread to every corner of their planet before they even developed basic technology. They did this while living only 120 years. Velrath walked closer to the display. He examined the biological data more carefully. The humans had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no venom. Their skin was soft and easily damaged. They were slower than most predators. Their senses were limited compared to many species. How did they survive? He asked. We do not know, Morath admitted. Their physical form suggests they should have gone extinct millions of years ago. Instead, they became apex predators. They hunted creatures many times their size. They developed tools, language, and social structures. They built civilizations. Perhaps they are simply very intelligent, Yenna suggested. Intelligence can overcome physical limitations. Their intelligence is above average but not exceptional, Morath said. By galactic standards, they rank in the upper third but nowhere near the top. There are dozens of species more intelligent than humans who have achieved far less. The doors to the chamber opened, and the remaining council members entered. Among them was the eldest, a being known only as the Observer. No one knew what species the Observer belonged to. No one knew how old the Observer was. The Observer had been on the council since before anyone could remember. The Observer looked at the display showing Earth. Then the Observer spoke, and everyone listened. Show them the final transmission. Morath hesitated. Then he activated the recording. The screen showed a Kethmari scientist named Researcher Ven. He was inside a small ship, and he looked terrified. His scales had turned white with fear. This is Researcher Ven of Survey Team 7, the recording said. We have been observing the human species for 3 standard days. We maintained all protocols. We stayed hidden. Our stealth systems were fully operational. There is no way they could have detected us. Ven's voice cracked. His eyes kept darting to something off-screen. They found us. I do not know how. We detected no scans, no signals, nothing. But 6 hours ago, a human vessel appeared next to our ship. It matched our course and speed exactly. A human looked through the viewport at me. He smiled and waved. The recording flickered. Ven was breathing too fast. They know we have been watching them. They know everything. When we tried to leave, they did not stop us. They let us go. I do not understand. If they wanted to capture us, they could have. If they wanted to destroy us, we would be dead. Instead, they just watched us leave. One of them transmitted a message to us as we entered faster than light travel. The message said, "Thank you for visiting, and please come again soon." The recording ended. The chamber was completely silent. They detected a stealth vessel using technology 5,000 years ahead of their own. Admiral Threx said slowly. They matched its course without being detected themselves. They chose to reveal themselves at a time of their choosing, and then they let our people go. They were studying us, Velrath realized. The entire time we thought we were observing them, they were observing us. There is more, Morath said. His voice had changed. He sounded almost afraid. I have been analyzing the human database that the survey team collected before they fled. I found their historical records. And, Yenna asked, in their history, humans have fought over 15,000 wars against each other. The words hit Velrath like a physical blow. 15,000 wars. War was the ultimate barbarism. Species that made war against themselves always destroyed themselves within a few generations. It was a universal constant. Civil war meant extinction. That is impossible, Admiral Threx said. No species survives that level of internal conflict. Humans have not merely survived, Morath said. They have grown stronger. Each war taught them new ways to fight, new ways to kill, new ways to survive being killed. Their military technology advanced more during wartime than during peace. They did not destroy themselves. They used destruction to evolve. Monsters, Yenna whispered. They are monsters. Perhaps, the observer said, or perhaps they are something we have never encountered before. Something that does not follow the rules we thought were universal. A chime sounded through the chamber. An alert. Morath checked his instruments, and his mechanical arms went still. 3 vessels have just appeared at the edge of council space, one he said. They are human ships. They are not armed. How can you be certain they are not armed? Threx demanded. Because they told us. They are transmitting openly on all frequencies. They say they are ambassadors. They wish to speak with us. They say they come in peace. Velrath looked at the display. 3 small ships floating in the darkness of space. They looked primitive, simple, harmless. But he knew now that nothing about humans was simple. They knew we would find them, he said. They planned for this. The survey team finding them, the records we collected, even this meeting. They have been waiting for us. Then we should not keep them waiting, the observer said. Let them come. Let them speak. We must know what we are dealing with. And if they are hostile? Threx asked. If they were hostile, we would already be dead, the observer replied. A species that has fought 15,000 wars and survived does not reveal itself unless it chooses to. They want something from us. We must find out what. Velrath watched as the human vessels began their approach. They moved slowly, carefully, making no threatening gestures. They followed every diplomatic protocol perfectly, as if they had studied the Covenant's procedures for centuries. Perhaps they had. As the ambassador of the Kethmari people, Velrath would be responsible for the initial contact. He would be the first to speak with these creatures from a death world. These short-lived monsters who had fought 15,000 wars and conquered their own extinction. These beings who had detected undetectable ships and let the Watchers go free. He thought about the human who had waved at researcher Venn through the viewport. That smile, that casual gesture, as if finding an alien species was an everyday occurrence, as if nothing in the universe could surprise them. What did you have to survive to become that calm? What did you have to overcome to smile at the unknown instead of fearing it? Velrath did not know, but he was about to find out. The council voted to allow the human vessels to dock at Nexus Prime. The vote was not unanimous. Several members wanted to destroy the ships before they could get any closer, but the observers' words had convinced enough of them. If humans wanted war, they would not have announced themselves. They would have attacked without warning, the way they had apparently attacked each other 15,000 times throughout their history. The fact that they were asking for permission, following protocols, being polite, meant something. It meant they had a plan, and Velrath desperately wanted to know what that plan was. He stood in the docking bay as the first human ship touched down. The vessel was smaller than he had expected, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. The hull was covered in strange markings that his translator identified as a language called English. The door opened. 5 humans walked out. They were shorter than Velrath had expected, barely reaching his shoulder. Their skin came in different shades, from pale pink to deep brown. Their hair was various colors as well. They wore simple clothing with no visible weapons. They were smiling. The leader of the group was a female with dark hair and bright eyes. She walked forward with complete confidence, as if she belonged here, as if she had always belonged here. Ambassador Velrath Sindori, she said. Her voice was pleasant, warm. Thank you for receiving us. I am Director Sarah Chen of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. We have been looking forward to this meeting for a very long time. Velrath forced himself to remain calm. He had done this thousands of times. He had met with kings and conquerors, scientists and warriors. He was a professional, but he had never met anything like humans. Director Chen, he replied, welcome to Nexus Prime. The Council is prepared to hear whatever you wish to say. Chen's smile widened. Wonderful. We have so much to tell you. She glanced back at her companions, then returned her gaze to Velrath. I hope you have plenty of time, Ambassador. Human history is quite long and quite interesting. She began walking toward the council chambers, not waiting for an escort. She knew exactly where to go. Velrath followed her, his mind racing. They had been watching the Covenant far longer than the Covenant had been watching them. They knew everything about galactic civilization. They had learned the languages, the protocols, the politics. They had prepared for this moment. And now they were here, smiling and polite, ready to reveal themselves to the galaxy. Velrath could not shake the feeling that whatever came next would change everything. The Covenant had stood for 10,000 years. It had survived wars, plagues, and cosmic disasters. It had united millions of species under one banner of peace, but it had never faced humans. As he walked behind Director Chen, watching her confident stride, Velrath wondered if the galaxy was ready for what was coming. He suspected it was not. The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime was the largest enclosed space in the known galaxy. It had been built 10,000 years ago to hold representatives from every species in the Covenant. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. Its floor could hold 1,000,000 beings standing shoulder to shoulder. Today it held only a few thousand, but those few thousand represented the most powerful civilizations in existence. They had come to see the humans. Ambassador Velrath stood near the front of the hall, watching as Director Sarah Chen and her 4 companions took their places on the speaking platform. The humans looked impossibly small in that vast space. They should have seemed insignificant. They did not. Chen stood at the center, her hands clasped behind her back. She looked out at the assembled species with calm curiosity, as if she were the one observing them, rather than the other way around. The other humans spread out behind her, equally relaxed. Velrath noticed that one of the humans, a large male with dark skin and scars on his arms, was not wearing a breathing mask. The atmosphere of Nexus Prime was designed for the majority of Covenant species. It contained trace elements that were mildly toxic to many oxygen breathers. The humans had been offered environmental suits. They had refused. Before we begin, Chen said, her voice amplified to reach every corner of the hall, I want to thank you all for this opportunity. Humanity has waited a long time for this day. We have many things to share with you. We have questions first, Admiral Threx called out from his position among the Vorn delegation. Your survey team's data raised many concerns. Of course, Chen replied. We expected questions. Please ask whatever you wish. We will answer honestly. High Priestess Yenna rose from her seat. Her pale form seemed to glow in the hall's lighting. The data we collected indicates your species has an average lifespan of only 120 standard years. How is this possible? How do you achieve anything in such a short time? Chen's expression did not change. The data is correct. 120 years is actually quite long for us. A few centuries ago, our average lifespan was less than 40 years. A murmur ran through the hall. 40 years. Some of the species present took longer than that to complete basic education. We achieve things quickly because we must, Chen continued. We do not have the luxury of time. Every human knows that their life is short. This makes us value each moment. It makes us work faster, think harder, push further. We cannot wait for solutions. We must find them now, or we will die before they come. But knowledge, Yenna pressed. The accumulation of wisdom across generations. How do you pass on what you learn? We write everything down, Chen said simply. We invented writing thousands of years ago, specifically because we knew we would die and forget. Every generation records what it learns so the next generation can start where they left off. We do not rely on individual memory. We rely on collective memory. Books, databases, schools. We teach our children everything we know as fast as we can because we know we will not be there to teach them forever. The human with the scars shifted slightly. Velreth noticed that despite standing still, the man's eyes never stopped moving. He was tracking every being in the hall, cataloging threats, planning responses. It was a soldier's habit, the kind of habit that came from fighting many battles. Your home world, Chief Scientist Morath spoke up. His mechanical arms gestured toward a holographic display of Earth. Our analysis classifies it as a Category 7 death world. Extreme environmental variance, tectonic instability, toxic atmosphere, predatory megafauna. How did your species survive? Chen actually laughed. It was a warm sound, genuine. That is a complicated question, Chief Scientist. The short answer is that we almost did not. Many times. Let me explain. She gestured and the holographic display changed. It showed a timeline of Earth's history. 4 billion years ago, our planet formed from cosmic dust. For most of that time, it was completely hostile to complex life. The atmosphere was poison. The surface was volcanic. Meteors struck constantly. Life began in the oceans, simple cells that slowly evolved over billions of years. Our ancestors were prey animals, small, weak, hunted by everything larger than them. The display showed primitive humans, barely recognizable. They were thin, frightened creatures huddled in caves while predators prowled outside. We had no claws, no fangs, no venom, no armor. Our bodies were soft and easily damaged. We were slower than the creatures that hunted us. Our senses were weaker. By every measure, we should have gone extinct. Then how did you survive? Threx demanded. We cheated, Chen said. We invented cheating. We could not outrun predators, so we learned to make traps. We could not outfight them, so we made weapons. Rocks at first, then spears, then bows, then guns. Each generation invented new ways to kill things bigger than themselves. She paused, letting her words sink in. But weapons were only part of it. We also learned to work together. 1 human is weak. 10 humans are dangerous. 100 humans can bring down any predator on our world. We formed tribes, then villages, then cities. We shared knowledge. We protected each other. We became the most dangerous pack hunters our planet had ever seen. The display changed again. It showed humans spreading across Earth, colonizing every environment. Deserts, mountains, frozen wastelands, tropical jungles. They adapted to each one. Our bodies could not change fast enough to match our environments, Chen explained. So we changed our environments to match our bodies. Too cold? We made fire. We made clothes from the skins of animals we killed. Too hot? We dug wells for water. We built shelters from the sun. No food? We invented farming. We domesticated animals. We bent our entire planet to our will because we refused to die. Ambassador Velrath felt his scales tighten. There was something disturbing about the way Chen spoke. Not threatening exactly, but intense. She was describing survival as if it were a war, and every human had been a soldier since birth. Your adaptation is impressive, Morath said, but it does not explain your rapid technological advancement. Even accounting for your short lifespans and collective knowledge systems, your progress is abnormally fast. Chen's smile faded slightly. You are correct. Our survival instincts alone do not explain our technology. There is another factor. She looked out at the assembled species. Her expression was unreadable. Competition, she said, specifically war. The hall went silent. Velrath saw several ambassadors shifting uncomfortably. War was not discussed openly in civilized space. It was considered barbaric, primitive. Species that made war eventually destroyed themselves. Everyone knew this. According to our records, Chen continued, humanity has fought approximately 15,400 wars throughout our history. This number does not include minor conflicts, rebellions, or border skirmishes, only major organized warfare between significant populations. A Kethmari ambassador near Velrath made a choking sound and collapsed. Medical personnel rushed to assist. Chen watched with what appeared to be genuine concern, then continued. I understand this is disturbing to you. It is disturbing to us as well. War is terrible. We know this better than anyone. Humans have killed more humans than any other cause throughout our history. We have invented thousands of ways to destroy each other. We have committed atrocities that I will not describe in this setting. She paused. But war also drove our advancement. Each conflict forced us to develop new technologies, new strategies, new ways of thinking. Our ancestors discovered fire to survive the cold. They discovered metallurgy to make better weapons. They discovered chemistry to make explosives. They split the atom to make bombs that could destroy entire cities. You developed nuclear weapons? Admiral Threx's voice was sharp. Nuclear technology was restricted under Covenant law. Species were not permitted to develop it until they had proven themselves stable enough to handle it. We developed them. We used them. Twice in a single war. 2 cities were destroyed in moments. Hundreds of thousands died. Chen's voice was flat, factual. After that, we nearly destroyed ourselves completely. For decades, we lived under the threat of total annihilation. We came within minutes of ending our own species on multiple occasions. Then how are you still here? Yenna asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Because we chose to be. Every time we stood at the edge of extinction, we stepped back. Not because we became less dangerous. We became more dangerous with every generation. But we also became wiser. We learned that there were some weapons too terrible to use. We learned that some victories were not worth winning. The scarred human behind Chen spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and rough. We have weapons in our arsenals that we will never use. Biological agents that could wipe out entire planets. Chemical compounds that cause suffering beyond description. Theoretical devices that could crack worlds in half. We developed them because we could. We do not use them because we choose not to. Chen nodded. This is the truth about humanity. We are capable of anything. Absolutely anything. The only limit on our actions is our own choice. We can be the most creative, compassionate, loving beings in existence. We can also be monsters beyond your worst nightmares. The difference is entirely up to us. Velrath found himself stepping forward. He had not intended to speak, but the words came out anyway. Why are you telling us this? If you wanted to present yourselves favorably, you would hide these things. Instead, you are revealing your darkest history. Why? Chen turned to look at him directly. Her eyes were brown, warm, but there was something behind them, something old and tired and dangerous. Because you would have found out eventually, Ambassador. You are already studying us. Your scientists are analyzing our data. Within a few years, you would have learned everything I am telling you now. And if you had discovered it without us telling you, you would assume we were hiding worse. She spread her hands. We have nothing to hide. This is who we are. Survivors of a death world. Fighters of 15,000 wars. Builders of weapons that could end civilizations. We are everything you fear, and we know it. We have always known it. Then what do you want from us? Threx demanded. If you are as powerful as you claim, why come to us at all? Why not simply take what you want? Chen's expression softened. For a moment, she looked almost sad. Because we are tired, Admiral. Tired of fighting. Tired of struggling alone. For all of our history, we have had no one to rely on but ourselves. No allies among the stars, no friends in the darkness, just us, fighting and dying and rebuilding, generation after generation. She looked out at the assembled species again. When we discovered that the galaxy was full of life, full of civilizations that had learned to live in peace, we could not believe it. We had assumed that the universe was as hostile as our homeworld. We thought that survival meant eternal conflict, but you proved us wrong. You built something beautiful out here, something we want to be part of. You want to join the Covenant? Yenna asked. We want to be your friends, Chen said simply. We want to trade with you, learn from you, share what we have learned with you. We do not want to conquer anyone. We have had enough of conquest. We want something different now, something better. The hall was quiet. Velrath could see the conflict on faces throughout the room, fear and hope and disbelief all mixed together. How can we trust you? He asked. Everything you have told us suggests that humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. How can we believe that you come in peace? Chen smiled again. This time there was real warmth in it. You cannot trust us, not yet. Trust takes time. We know this. All we ask is that you give us the chance to prove ourselves. Watch us, study us, test us. We will submit to whatever evaluation you require. We have nothing to hide and everything to gain. She glanced at her companions, then back at the assembly. There is one more thing you should know. We did not reveal ourselves because we thought the time was right. We revealed ourselves because we had to. What do you mean? Threx asked. There are factions within human space who want to conquer the galaxy. They are currently a minority, but they exist. They believe that humanity's destiny is to rule over all other species. They see the Covenant as a target, not a potential ally. The tension in the hall spiked immediately. Why tell us this? Velrath demanded. You are giving us reason to attack you before these factions can act. Because if you attack us, those factions will be proven right, Chen said. They will tell every human that the galaxy wants us dead, that we can only survive through conquest, that peace was never an option, and then you will face a united humanity, billions of beings who have fought 15,000 wars and won them all. She let the words hang in the air. We came to you because we want peace. The best way to ensure peace is to make humanity part of the Covenant, to give our people something to protect instead of something to conquer. We are not asking you to trust us blindly. We are asking you to give us a chance to earn your trust. The alternative benefits no one. The assembly erupted into chaos. Hundreds of voices speaking at once, debating, arguing, shouting. Admiral Threx was demanding immediate military action. High Priestess Yenna was calling for calm. The observer sat in silence, watching everything with ancient eyes. Through it all, Director Chen stood motionless on the platform. She did not try to speak over the noise. She simply waited. Velrath approached her, pushing through the crowd until he stood directly below the platform. She looked down at him with those warm, dangerous eyes. Everything you have told us, he said quietly. Your wars, your weapons, your history. This is what you are willing to reveal. What are you hiding? What is humanity truly capable of? Chen's smile faded. She knelt down so that her face was level with his. Ambassador, everything I have told you is from our history books, what we teach our children, what every human knows. She leaned closer. What we are capable of now is classified, but I will tell you this much. In the 300 years since we achieved interstellar travel, we have not been idle. We have been preparing. For anything, for everything. She stood up again. If you choose to be our friends, you will see that capability used to protect you. If you choose to be our enemies, you will see it used against you. That is the only choice that matters. Velrath felt cold despite the warmth of the hall. He had asked the question, hoping for reassurance. Instead, he had received a warning. Humanity was offering peace, but behind that offer was a promise. We are trying to be good, but we can be so much worse. The assembly continued to argue long into the night, but Velrath knew that the decision had already been made, not by the council, but by humanity itself. They had revealed themselves. They had offered friendship, and they had made it very clear what would happen if that offer was refused. The galaxy would never be the same. The validation array was a space station the size of a small moon. It orbited a dying star in neutral space, far from any inhabited system. For 10,000 years, it had served one purpose: to test new species before they could be integrated into the Covenant. Every species that joined the Covenant had to pass through the validation array. Their technology was examined. Their military capabilities were assessed. Their threat level was calculated. This allowed the Council to know exactly what they were dealing with before granting membership. No species had ever exceeded a Class 4 threat rating. The scale went to 10, but the upper levels were theoretical. They were included only because scientists liked complete systems. No one had ever expected any species to reach them, until now. Ambassador Velrath stood in the observation room, watching through reinforced glass as the first human test subject entered the physical assessment chamber. The human was a female soldier named Sergeant Maya Torres. She was small by human standards, with dark hair tied back and brown skin marked by several scars. The first assessment will measure baseline physical capabilities, Chief Scientist Marath announced through the communication system. Speed, strength, endurance, sensory perception, pain tolerance, standard protocols. Torres nodded. She did not look nervous. She looked bored. The test began. Velrath watched as Torres ran through obstacle courses designed to test agility. She was not remarkably fast. Several Covenant species were quicker, but she did not stop. She maintained a steady pace long after most species would have collapsed from exhaustion. When the observers asked how long she could continue, she shrugged and said she could go for days if necessary. The strength tests were similar. Torres was not the strongest species in the galaxy, but she could lift heavy weights and carry them for extended periods. Her muscles seemed designed for endurance rather than explosive power. She was built to last. Fascinating, Morath murmured, studying the data. Human muscles contain a mixture of fast and slow twitch fibers that allow them to perform both quick movements and sustained effort. Their bodies are designed for persistence hunting. What is persistence hunting? Velrath asked. An ancient technique. Instead of chasing prey quickly and catching it, persistence hunters follow their target for hours or days until it collapses from exhaustion. Humans cannot outrun most animals in short distances, but they can keep moving when almost every other creature must stop to rest. Velrath thought about this. It was terrifying in a quiet way. Humans did not need to be faster or stronger than their enemies. They just needed to keep coming, never stopping, never resting, following their prey until it could no longer run. The pain tolerance tests began. Torres was subjected to various discomforts: electrical stimulation, extreme temperatures, pressure on sensitive areas. She responded to all of them but did not stop functioning. When the observers increased the intensity to levels that would incapacitate most species, she simply gritted her teeth and continued performing tasks. "How are you doing this?" Morath asked through the speaker. "Your nerve responses indicate significant pain. You should be unable to function." Torres wiped sweat from her forehead. "Pain is just information. It tells me something is wrong. It does not tell me to stop. I decide when to stop. Your body is sustaining damage. I know. I will heal. You may not heal completely. Some of this damage could be permanent." Torres looked directly at the observation glass. Her expression did not change. I understand. Continue the test. They continued the test. Torres completed every task. Her hands were shaking by the end. Blood was dripping from her nose. But she was still standing, still functional, still ready for more. The medical assessment that followed revealed more disturbing information. Human bodies were remarkably resilient. They could recover from injuries that would kill most species. Broken bones healed. Damaged tissue regenerated. Even severe wounds could be survived if treated quickly. Their healing factor is not exceptional by galactic standards, Morath noted. Several species heal faster, but humans heal while remaining active. They do not need to rest and recover. They can fight and heal at the same time. That should not be possible, Admiral Threx said. He had arrived an hour ago, officially to observe, but clearly because he did not trust the humans out of his sight. The energy required for both activities would be enormous. Humans consume significantly more calories than comparable species, Morath replied. Their metabolism is extremely high. They burn energy constantly, even at rest. This allows them to perform multiple biological functions simultaneously. Velrath looked at Torres, who was now receiving medical attention for her test injuries. She was talking casually with the medical staff, even laughing at something one of them said. She had just endured hours of physical torture, and she was laughing. What kind of species laughed at pain? The psychological assessment began the next day. A fresh human was brought in, a male named Lieutenant James Okonkwo. He was tall and thin, with a calm demeanor and intelligent eyes. The tests were designed to measure mental resilience, sensory deprivation, psychological pressure, simulated scenarios designed to cause stress and fear. These tests had broken hardened warriors from dozens of species. They were considered the most challenging part of the validation process. Okonkwo sat in the isolation chamber for 3 days. No light, no sound, no stimulation of any kind. When he emerged, he seemed slightly annoyed, but otherwise unchanged. "How do you feel?" the observers asked. "Bored," Okonkwo replied. "I spent the time reviewing training protocols in my head, also composed a few poems. Not very good ones, but it passed the time." The psychological pressure tests followed. Interrogation techniques, manipulation attempts, scenarios designed to make subjects feel hopeless, afraid, or alone. Okonkwo responded to all of them with polite patience. "You cannot break what has already been broken and rebuilt," he explained when asked about his resilience. "Humans break all the time. We break as children when we learn that the world is not fair. We break as adolescents when we discover our own limitations. We break as adults when we face failure and loss. But we do not stay broken. We heal. We rebuild. We come back stronger." He smiled slightly. "Your tests are designed to break someone who has never been broken, but every human has been broken multiple times before adulthood. Your techniques are familiar to us. We have already survived them." The simulated torture scenarios began. Velrath could not watch all of them. The methods used were effective against most species. They caused extreme psychological distress without physical harm. Okonkwo endured them all. His vital signs indicated stress, but he remained functional. He completed every task assigned to him, even while being subjected to conditions that had shattered the minds of hardened warriors. When asked how this was possible, he gave the same answer Torres had given. "Pain is information. Fear is a warning. They tell me that something is wrong. They do not tell me what to do about it. That is my choice. I choose to continue." The technological assessment was conducted on the 3rd day. Director Chen herself presented this portion, along with several human scientists and military advisors. "We will demonstrate a selection of our current military capabilities," Chen announced. "We want to be transparent about what humanity can do. However, I must note that some of our technologies are classified. We will not reveal everything." "Why not?" Threx demanded. Because there are some weapons we hope never to use. Demonstrating them serves no purpose except to frighten you. We are here to build trust, not fear. Threx looked skeptical, but he did not argue. The demonstrations began with standard military technology. Human weapons were effective but not exceptional. Their ships were fast but not the fastest. Their shields were strong but not the strongest. By galactic standards, they seemed to be a mid-tier military power. Then Chen showed them the special technologies. Human biological weapons could target specific genetic sequences. They could create plagues that killed only one species while leaving all others unharmed. They could modify viruses to spread through populations before activating, ensuring maximum infection before symptoms appeared. Human chemical weapons caused suffering that could not be described in polite company. They attacked nervous systems, caused hallucinations, triggered extreme pain responses. Some of them could keep a victim alive and conscious for weeks while their body slowly dissolved. Human psychological weapons could break minds without physical contact. Propaganda systems, information warfare, techniques for manipulating entire populations into acting against their own interests. And then there were the weapons Chen would not demonstrate. These are theoretical technologies, she said, gesturing to a list on the display. We have the scientific understanding to build them. We have chosen not to. The list included planet crackers, star killers, dimensional weapons that could erase matter from existence, devices that could create black holes or manipulate gravity at a fundamental level. You have the capability to destroy stars, Morath asked. His mechanical arms had gone completely still. We have the theoretical capability, Chen corrected. We have not built such weapons. We may never build them. But we understand the science. Why develop such knowledge if you do not intend to use it? Chen's expression was unreadable. Because we are human, we cannot help but learn. Every time we discover something new, we ask ourselves what we could do with it. Usually the answer includes at least one way to use it as a weapon. It is how our minds work. She paused. We have learned to separate what we can do from what we should do. Our scientists develop technologies. Our ethicists decide whether those technologies should be used. Our governments enforce those decisions. It is not a perfect system. Sometimes mistakes are made, but it has kept us from destroying ourselves so far. The final assessment was a practical combat exercise. Human soldiers would face Covenant training robots in simulated combat. The robots were programmed to match any opponent, adjusting their difficulty to provide a fair test. Velrath expected the humans to perform well. He did not expect what he actually saw. The human soldiers moved like nothing he had ever witnessed. They did not fight individually. They fought as a unit, each soldier covering the others, communicating through hand signals and brief words. They adapted to every situation instantly, changing tactics mid-battle without discussion. The robots increased their difficulty. The humans adapted again. The robots tried new strategies. The humans countered them. No matter what the robots did, the humans found a way to respond. They are learning in real time, Morath observed. Each soldier is analyzing the robot's patterns and sharing information with the others. They are essentially functioning as a single organism with multiple bodies. That is called squad tactics. The scarred human, whose name Velrath had learned was Commander David Oyalaran, said from beside him. We have been perfecting it for thousands of years. Each soldier is an individual, but in combat, we become something more, something connected. Your soldiers trust each other absolutely, Velrath noted. They have to. In combat, there is no time for doubt. You trust your squad members with your life, or you die. It is that simple. The combat exercise ended with the humans victorious. The training robots had been pushed to their maximum difficulty level and still lost. The human soldiers were battered and exhausted, but they were alive and functional. The assessment was complete. Velrath stood in the observation room as Morath compiled the final report. The chief scientist's mechanical arms moved slowly, as if he did not want to finish. "What is the threat rating?" Threx demanded. Morath was silent for a long moment. "Class 12. The room went cold. "The scale only goes to 10, Threx said. "I am aware. The humans exceed our maximum classification. Their physical resilience, psychological stability, adaptive capabilities, and technological potential all surpass our highest parameters. I had to create new categories to accurately represent their threat level." He turned to face the Admiral. "Humanity is the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. They are not the strongest, the fastest, or the smartest, but they are the most adaptable, the most persistent, the most creative in finding new ways to survive and new ways to kill." He paused. "And everything we have seen, they have been holding back." Director Chen admitted as much. "There are weapons they will not show us, capabilities they will not demonstrate. What we have observed is what humanity is willing to reveal. Their true potential is unknown." Admiral Threx's massive form was trembling. With rage or fear, Velrath could not tell. "What do we do?" the Admiral asked. Morath's optical sensors dimmed slightly. In a Kethmari, it would have been a sign of exhaustion. "I do not know. If we attack them, we face a species that has won 15,000 wars. If we leave them alone, they will continue to advance, becoming more dangerous with each generation. If we try to befriend them, we must trust that they are sincere about wanting peace." He looked at his data one more time. "There is one more thing. During the psychological assessments, we asked the human subjects what they feared most. Their answers were consistent across all individuals." "What did they say?" Velrath asked. "They said they feared themselves. They feared what they might become if they stopped trying to be good. They feared the monster that lives inside every human, waiting for permission to emerge." Morath's mechanical arms went still. "They are not asking us to trust them. They are asking us to help them stay human. They want allies, friends, reasons to remain civilized. Without those things, they are afraid of what they might do." The room was silent. Outside, the dying star cast red light across the validation array. In the distance, 3 human ships waited patiently for the results of their assessment. Velrath thought about everything he had seen: the endurance, the resilience, the capacity for violence held in check by nothing but willpower and choice. Humanity was terrifying, but not because they were monsters. They were terrifying because they knew exactly what they were, and they were trying so hard to be something better. The question was whether the galaxy would help them succeed or push them toward the darkness they feared. Velrath hoped the Council would choose wisely, because if they did not, he had seen what humans could do when they decided to stop being good, and he never wanted to see it again. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Class 12, a threat level that did not exist until humans made it necessary. Within hours of the assessment results being released, panic began. Ambassador Velrath watched the chaos unfold from his office on Nexus Prime. Reports flooded in from every corner of Covenant space. Stock markets were crashing. Military forces were mobilizing. Governments that had been stable for millennia were suddenly facing civil unrest as their populations demanded answers. The Council of 12 had fractured completely. Admiral Threx led the faction demanding immediate military action. They wanted to strike humanity before it could grow stronger. They argued that waiting would only give humans more time to prepare. Better to face them now, when they were still relatively weak, than later, when they might be unstoppable. High Priestess Yenna led the opposing faction. They argued that attacking humanity would be suicide. The humans had made it clear that they were willing to share their most dangerous technologies with their friends. If the Covenant attacked, it would prove to every human that the galaxy was their enemy. The war that followed would devastate both sides. The observer said nothing. The ancient being simply watched, as always. Meanwhile, the human delegation remained on Nexus Prime. They attended diplomatic functions. They made polite conversation with anyone willing to speak with them. They acted as if nothing unusual was happening. This frightened everyone more than anything else. Velrath received a message from Director Chen on the 5th day of the crisis. She requested a private meeting. Against the advice of his security staff, he agreed. They met in a garden in the lower levels of the diplomatic quarter. It was designed to soothe, filled with plants from 100 worlds. Water flowed through artificial streams. Birds from various planets sang in the artificial trees. Chen was already there when Velrath arrived. She was sitting on a stone bench, looking up at the simulated sky. She seemed smaller here, away from the grand halls and formal settings, almost fragile. "Thank you for coming, Ambassador," she said without turning around. "I know this was a risk for you." Velrath sat on a bench across from her. "You said you wanted to speak privately. What did you want to discuss?" Chen finally looked at him. Her eyes were tired. The calm confidence she had displayed in public was gone. In its place was something more honest, something vulnerable. "I wanted to explain why we revealed ourselves the way we did. The full truth, not the diplomatic version." "Please do." Chen took a deep breath. "Humanity is afraid. We have been afraid since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what might be looking back. For most of our history, we assumed the universe was hostile. We assumed that any alien species we encountered would try to destroy us. This assumption shaped everything we did." She stood and walked to the edge of a stream, looking down at the water. "When we developed interstellar travel, we found nothing. No aliens, no civilizations, just empty worlds and silent stars. For 300 years, we expanded alone. We built colonies. We strengthened our military. We prepared for a war that never came. And then you found us," Velrath said. "And then we found you. A galaxy full of life. Millions of species living in peace. Everything we had feared, everything we had prepared for, turned out to be wrong." Chen laughed softly. "You cannot imagine what that felt like. Our entire worldview, shattered in an instant." She turned to face him. "Some humans saw the Covenant as proof that peace was possible. They wanted to join you, to learn from you, to become part of something beautiful. But others saw it differently. They saw a galaxy full of potential victims, weak species who had forgotten how to fight, easy targets for a species that had never stopped fighting." "The factions you mentioned in the assembly," Velrath said. "Yes, the conquerors. They call themselves the true ascendancy now. They believe humanity's destiny is to rule the galaxy. They see our violent history not as a shame to overcome, but as proof of our superiority. We survived a death world. We won 15,000 wars. We split the atom and did not destroy ourselves. In their minds, this makes us the rightful masters of all we survey." Chen's voice hardened. "They are currently a minority, but they are growing. Every day they recruit more followers. Every day they become more powerful. And they are watching this crisis very carefully. If the Covenant attacks us, they will be proven right. Every human who wanted peace will have to admit that the galaxy sees us as enemies. And then the true ascendancy will have all the support they need." Velrath felt cold despite the warmth of the garden. "So this was all a gamble. You revealed yourselves hoping the Covenant would choose peace instead of war." "It was the only option that did not lead to disaster," Chen said. "If we had hidden ourselves, you would have found us eventually, and you would have found a divided humanity, some wanting peace and some wanting war. You would have seen us as an uncertain threat and acted accordingly." She sat back down on her bench. "By revealing ourselves openly, by sharing our history and our capabilities, we forced both sides to make a choice. The Covenant must decide whether to attack us or welcome us. Humanity must decide whether to trust the galaxy or conquer it. There is no middle ground anymore. No room for uncertainty. You are gambling with the fate of billions, Velrath said. I am gambling with the fate of trillions, Chen corrected, including every human who will ever be born. Do you think I do not feel that weight? Do you think I sleep well at night? She looked at him directly. I carry the future of my species on my shoulders, Ambassador. Every word I say, every decision I make, could determine whether humanity becomes a force for good in this galaxy or a plague that destroys everything it touches. Some days I can barely breathe under that pressure. Velrath studied her face. He had centuries of diplomatic experience. He had learned to read beings from hundreds of species. And right now, everything he saw told him that Chen was telling the truth. Why are you telling me this? He asked. I am just one ambassador among thousands. Because you asked me a question during our first meeting. You asked what humanity was hiding, what we were truly capable of. I could not answer you then, not in public, but I can answer you now. She leaned forward. What humanity is truly capable of is anything, absolutely anything. We have no natural limits. Our biology does not restrict us. Our psychology does not restrict us. Our culture does not restrict us. We can become saints or monsters, builders or destroyers. The only thing that determines which path we take is choice. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. Do you know what the most frightening thing about humans is, Ambassador? It is not our weapons. It is not our resilience. It is not our capacity for violence. The most frightening thing is that every single human knows this about themselves. Every one of us carries a monster inside. Every one of us has looked into the darkness of our own soul and seen what we could become. She paused. We do not fear you. We do not fear the Covenant or its military or its technology. We fear ourselves. We fear what we might do if we decide that being good is not worth the effort. We fear the day when we stop trying to be civilized and let the monster out. Velrath did not know what to say. He had negotiated with tyrants and madmen. He had faced down threats from species that wanted to destroy everything he held dear. But he had never encountered anything like this. A species that was terrified of its own potential. A species that built its entire civilization around controlling the darkness within. You want our help, he finally said. Not our submission, not our fear. You want us to give you reasons to stay human. Chen nodded slowly. We need friends, Ambassador, not subjects. Friends who will remind us why peace matters. Friends who will give us something to protect instead of something to destroy. Friends who will help us be better than our nature. She stood up and walked to stand directly in front of him. I cannot promise that humanity will always choose wisely. We have failed before. We will fail again. But I can promise that we will try. Every day, every generation, we will try to be good. All we ask is that you give us the chance. Before Velrath could respond, his communication device activated. Emergency transmission. Priority 1. He answered it. The face of a council aide appeared, pale and frightened. Ambassador, you must return to the council chambers immediately. There has been an attack. What attack? Where? A human battle group has crossed into Covenant space. They have attacked a civilian station in the Veritas system. 3 million souls are at risk. Velrath felt his heart stop. He looked at Chen. Her face had gone white. The true ascendancy, she whispered. They move faster than we expected. Director Chen, you must come with me, Velrath said. The council will demand answers. I know. Chen's voice was flat, controlled, but her hands were shaking. I know. They walked through the gardens together, neither speaking. Velrath's mind was racing. Everything Chen had told him, all her explanations and reassurances, suddenly seemed hollow. The monsters had slipped their leash. Humans were attacking civilians. The nightmare scenario was unfolding. When they reached the council chambers, chaos had already erupted. Admiral Threx was shouting orders to his fleet commanders. Yenna was attempting to coordinate evacuation efforts. The observer sat in silence, watching everything. On the main display, images from the Veritas system showed a civilian station, massive and graceful, designed to house millions. Human warships surrounded it. Weapons were powered, threats were being broadcast. They are demanding 30 systems and recognition of human supremacy, a tactical officer reported. They will destroy the station if their demands are not met. Admiral Threx turned to Chen with murder in his eyes. You said you wanted peace. You said we could trust you. Look at what your kind has done. Chen did not flinch. These are not my kind. These are the true ascendancy. They are enemies of everything I represent. They are enemies of humanity itself. How convenient. Your own species attacks us, and you simply disavow them. I do not disavow them, Admiral. I condemn them. Chen's voice was ice. And with your permission, I will deal with them. The chamber went silent. Deal with them? Velrath asked. How? Chen turned to face the entire council. Her earlier vulnerability was gone. In its place was something harder, something dangerous. You have seen what humanity can do. Our tests, our demonstrations, our weapons. But you have not seen what we do to our own kind when they threaten innocence. She looked at the display showing the besieged station. We have been policing our own monsters since before we discovered fire. Every society, every civilization, every nation humanity has ever built has included mechanisms for controlling our worst impulses. Laws, prisons, executions. We know better than anyone how dangerous we can be, and we know how to stop ourselves. What are you proposing? The observer asked. It was the first time the ancient being had spoken since the crisis began. Allow me to contact my government. Allow me to request intervention. If the true ascendancy wants to prove that humanity cannot be trusted, let them face the humans who have dedicated their lives to proving the opposite. Admiral Threx laughed bitterly. You want us to trust one group of humans to fight another group of humans? How do we know you will not simply join forces against us? You do not know, Chen admitted. You cannot know. All you can do is watch and see. She looked at the station again. 3 million lives hanging in the balance. Give me 1 hour. If I cannot resolve this situation, you may do whatever you think is necessary, but give me the chance to show you what humanity does to its own monsters. The council debated for exactly 3 minutes. They had no real choice. The nearest Covenant fleet was days away. The true ascendancy could destroy the station at any moment. Chen was offering the only possibility of a quick resolution. They gave her the hour. Velrath watched as Chen activated a communication channel using equipment far more advanced than anything she had shown during the assessments. She transmitted a single message, encrypted in ways the Covenant systems could not decipher. Then she waited. 47 minutes later, sensor alarms began screaming across the council chamber. Ships were appearing around the true ascendancy fleet, not Covenant ships, human ships. Dozens of them, materializing from empty space as if they had been hiding in the fabric of reality itself. Where did they come from? Threx demanded. We detected nothing. They were already there, Chen said quietly. They have been there for months, watching, waiting, just in case. On the display, the newcomers began to move. They did not attack immediately. They positioned themselves with surgical precision, cutting off every escape route, neutralizing every advantage the true ascendancy possessed. A transmission came through from the lead ship. A human male appeared on screen. His face was calm, almost bored. But his eyes were ancient, hard, the eyes of someone who had done terrible things and made peace with them long ago. True Ascendancy vessels. This is Commander Marcus Webb of the Human Security Initiative. You have attacked innocent civilians. You have threatened the peace between humanity and the Covenant. You have shamed our species before the entire galaxy. He paused. You have one choice: surrender unconditionally and face justice, or resist and face us. The True Ascendancy leader responded. He was a large man with fanatical eyes and a booming voice. You cannot stop us, Webb. We are the future of humanity. We are what humans were always meant to be. You are the ones who betrayed our nature. Webb's expression did not change. You have 10 seconds to decide. We will never surrender to traitors. We will show the galaxy what humanity can really do when it stops pretending to be civilized. Webb nodded slowly. So be it. The battle began. It lasted 11 minutes. Velrath watched in horrified fascination as the Human Security Initiative dismantled the True Ascendancy fleet. They did not simply defeat them. They took them apart piece by piece with a precision that suggested they knew exactly how the enemy ships were built and exactly how to disable them. Surgical strikes neutralized weapons. Boarding pods penetrated hulls at precise weak points. Within minutes, the True Ascendancy ships were crippled, their crews being subdued by teams that moved through corridors like shadows. When it was over, the station was untouched. 3 million civilians were safe. The True Ascendancy leader was in custody, along with his entire command staff. Webb's face appeared on the council display again. Director Chen, the situation is resolved. All hostile personnel are secured. The station is safe. We are returning to standing watch positions. Chen nodded. Thank you, Commander. Please ensure the prisoners are treated according to protocol. They will face justice on Earth. Understood. Webb's eyes moved slightly as if he were looking at something beyond the camera. The council is watching, I assume. They are. Webb's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Then let me say this directly to them. What you have witnessed today is what humanity does to its own monsters. We do not tolerate those who threaten innocence. We do not excuse violence against the helpless. And we do not let our worst members define who we are. He paused. We are not asking for your trust. We are showing you what we do to earn it. Watch us, judge us by our actions, and decide for yourselves what kind of species we are. The transmission ended. The council chamber was completely silent. Admiral Threx looked as if someone had struck him across the face. High Priestess Yenna was crying, her tears glowing within her light. Even the observer seemed moved, though it was impossible to read the ancient being's expression. Chen turned to face them all. This is what humanity can really do. Not just destruction, not just violence, control, discipline. The ability to turn our most dangerous capabilities against those who would misuse them. She looked at Velrath directly. We are not asking you to trust us blindly. We are asking you to give us a reason to keep being good. Help us be better than our nature, and we will spend every day proving that we are worth the chance. Velrath thought about everything he had seen, the power, the precision, the terrifying efficiency of humans hunting their own kind. And beneath it all, the desperate hope that someone would help them stay human. For the first time since this crisis began, he felt something other than fear. He felt hope. Maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had found its guardians. The Veritas system was quiet now. The damaged station had been stabilized. Repair ships were already on their way. 3 million civilians were safe, going about their lives as if nothing had happened. Most of them would never know how close they had come to dying. Ambassador Velrath stood on the observation deck of the Covenant diplomatic vessel, watching the human ships maintain their silent vigil around the system. They had not left after the battle. They simply returned to their watching positions and went still, like predators waiting patiently for their next hunt. Director Chen stood beside him. She had not slept since the crisis began. Dark circles had formed under her eyes, but she refused to rest until she had spoken with him one final time. "You asked me a question once," she said softly. "You asked what humanity was truly capable of. I think you finally have your answer." Velrath considered his response carefully. "I thought I knew what I would see. Violence, destruction, the monsters you warned us about. And what did you see instead?" "I saw something far more frightening." He turned to face her. "I saw control. I saw a species that has turned its most dangerous instincts into weapons against itself. I saw hunters who hunt their own kind to protect the innocent." Chen nodded slowly. "That is what scares you?" "Yes, because it means everything you told us was true. Humanity is capable of anything, and the only thing that determines what you do is choice. Your choice." He looked back out at the silent ships. The true ascendancy thought they were showing the galaxy what humanity could do without restraint. Instead, they showed us what happens when humanity decides to restrain its own. The monsters did not win today. The monster hunters did. Chen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Commander Webb lost his entire family to human violence. His wife, his children, his parents, all of them killed in a terrorist attack when he was young. He could have become a monster himself. He had every reason to embrace the darkness." She looked at him. "Instead, he dedicated his life to protecting others from what happened to him. He became the thing that monsters fear, not because he is good, not because he is kind, but because he chose to use his rage for protection instead of destruction. And if he had chosen differently, then he would be in custody right now, along with the true ascendancy leadership. We do not discriminate. Anyone who threatens innocence faces the same justice, regardless of their reasons." Velrath thought about this. A species that could produce both Webb and the true ascendancy leader from the same raw material, the same biology, the same history, the same potential. The only difference was choice. It was terrifying, and somehow it was also beautiful. "The council will meet tomorrow," he said. "They will decide humanity's fate. Or rather, they will decide how the Covenant responds to humanity." "I know. I have been preparing my final statement." "What will you say?" Chen smiled tiredly. "The truth, nothing more, nothing less." The council chamber was full when Chen took the speaking platform the next day. Every representative who could attend was present. This was the most important decision the Covenant would make in 10,000 years. No one wanted to miss it. Velrath sat in his usual position among the Kethmari delegation. He had spent the night thinking about everything he had witnessed since the humans first appeared. The revelations, the demonstrations, the fear, and finally the hope. He knew what he would recommend when his turn came to speak. He only hoped enough others felt the same way. Admiral Threx spoke first. His massive form seemed smaller somehow, diminished by what he had witnessed in the Veritas system. "I came to this chamber prepared to demand humanity's destruction," he began. "I believed they were a threat too great to be allowed to exist. I believed that their capacity for violence made them our enemies, regardless of what they claimed to want." He paused, his armored fists clenching and unclenching. "I was wrong. Not about their capacity for violence. That is real. What I was wrong about was what that capacity means." He looked at Chen. "Every species in this chamber has fought wars. We have all killed. We have all destroyed. The difference is that most of us stopped because we ran out of enemies or ran out of strength. We did not choose peace. We had peace forced upon us by circumstance." His voice dropped. "Humanity is different. They have never run out of strength. They have never been forced to stop fighting. Every moment of peace they have ever experienced has been a choice. They choose to be civilized every single day, despite having the power to do otherwise. He turned to address the full council. I have been a warrior for 400 years. I have faced enemies from across the galaxy, but I have never encountered anything like humans. They frighten me more than any species I have ever fought, and I believe we should welcome them as allies. A murmur ran through the chamber. Admiral Threx advocating for peace with the humans was unprecedented. Even those who shared his opinion had not expected him to be the one to voice it. High Priestess Yenna spoke next. Her pale form glowed with inner light as she addressed the assembly. I serve the celestial order, which teaches that all life is sacred. When I first heard of humanity's history, I was horrified. 15,000 wars, weapons capable of ending worlds. A species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times. She smiled softly. But I have learned something in these past weeks. The measure of a soul is not in the darkness it contains. It is in the light it chooses to show despite that darkness. Humanity is not defined by its capacity for violence. It is defined by its endless struggle to overcome that capacity. She gestured toward Chen. Director Chen told me something in private that I would like to share with this assembly. She said that every human carries a monster inside, that they spend their entire lives trying to keep that monster contained, that their laws, their ethics, their entire civilization exists to help them make the right choice every day. Her voice trembled slightly. That is not the description of monsters. That is the description of saints. Not beings who are naturally good, but beings who fight to be good despite every instinct telling them otherwise. That is a struggle, I understand. That is a struggle every species understands. She looked out at the assembly. I believe humanity deserves our compassion, not our fear. I believe they need our help to win their internal battle. And I believe that if we give them that help, they will become the greatest protectors this galaxy has ever known. More voices spoke. Some demanded caution. Others wanted stricter oversight. A few still called for military action, though their arguments seemed hollow after what had happened in the Veritas system. Then the observer rose. The ancient being rarely spoke. When the observer did speak, everyone listened. The chamber fell completely silent. I have watched civilizations rise and fall for longer than any of you can imagine, the observer began. I have seen species at their best and their worst. I have witnessed genocides and golden ages, and I have never in all my years encountered anything like humanity. The observer's voice was soft but carried to every corner of the vast chamber. Most species evolve toward peace or destruction. They either learn to control their violent impulses or those impulses consume them. It is a natural process, as inevitable as the death of stars. The observer looked directly at Chen. Humanity has done neither. They have not overcome their violence. They have embraced it. They have made it part of themselves. But instead of letting it destroy them, they have learned to direct it, to control it, to use it as a tool rather than be used by it. The observer paused. This is unprecedented. It suggests possibilities that we have never considered. A species that could harness the destructive potential that destroys others. A species that could turn the darkness into a weapon for light. The ancient being's voice grew stronger. The galaxy has been at peace for 10,000 years. We have grown comfortable, safe. We have forgotten what it means to truly struggle for survival. But the universe is vast and old, and we are not alone in it. There are threats beyond our borders that we have never faced, dangers that would destroy everything we have built. The observer looked out at the assembly. I believe humanity was not a random discovery. I believe they were meant to be found. The galaxy needs protectors, warriors who have not forgotten how to fight, guardians who can face the darkness without becoming it. The observer sat back down. Humanity is not our enemy. They are our salvation, if we are wise enough to see it. The vote was held that evening. The result was not unanimous. Nothing involving billions of lives ever is. But the majority was clear. Humanity would be granted provisional membership in the Covenant of United Species. They would not be treated as subordinates or threats. They would be treated as partners, equals, friends. The announcement was made across all Covenant channels. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see what would happen next. In the diplomatic quarter of Nexus Prime, Director Chen received the news in her temporary quarters. She read the official declaration 3 times before allowing herself to believe it was real. Then she sat down and cried. Commander Oyalaran found her like that an hour later. He sat beside her without speaking, simply offering his presence as comfort. "We did it," Chen finally said. "We actually did it." "We got our chance," Oyalaran corrected. "What we do with that chance is still up to us." Chen laughed through her tears. Always the optimist. "Someone has to be." He smiled slightly. "The true ascendancy is not going to disappear because we won one battle. There will be more challenges, more tests, more chances for humanity to fail." "I know," Chen wiped her eyes. "But for the first time in my life, I believe we might succeed. We have friends now, real friends, a galaxy full of species who see us not as monsters, but as people. Damaged, dangerous people, but people nonetheless." She looked out the window at the alien city spread before her. "That matters more than any weapon we could ever build. It gives us something to protect, something worth being good for." Ambassador Velrath found her there several hours later. The sky had darkened, and the lights of Nexus Prime glittered like stars against the blackness. "Director Chen," he said, "I wanted to congratulate you personally, and to thank you." Chen turned to face him. Her eyes were still red from crying, but she was smiling. "Thank me? For what?" "For trusting us, for believing that we could see past our fear and recognize what humanity truly is. Many would have assumed we were too blind or too cowardly to make the right choice. I never doubted you, Ambassador. I doubted us. Humanity. Whether we could convince you that we were worth saving." Velrath stepped closer. "You did not need to convince us. You showed us. With your honesty, your vulnerability, your willingness to face your own darkness in front of strangers." He reached out and touched her hand, a gesture of connection used by his people. "My final report to the Council contains one recommendation above all others. In the event of existential threat to the Covenant, humanity should be contacted first, not as soldiers for hire, not as weapons to be pointed at our enemies, as protectors, guardians, friends who will fight for us because they have chosen to, not because they must." Chen's smile widened. "That is quite an honor. It is quite a responsibility." Velrath's voice grew serious. "There will be those who expect humanity to solve all our problems, to face every danger, to be our shield against the darkness. They will forget that you are people too, with your own struggles and limitations." "We are used to carrying burdens," Chen said. "It is what we were built for." "Perhaps, but you do not have to carry them alone anymore." He squeezed her hand gently. "That is what friendship means. Sharing the weight, trusting others to help when you stumble, allowing yourself to be supported as well as supporting." Chen looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Thank you, Ambassador, for seeing us, for understanding. Thank you, Director, for giving us the chance to understand." 6 months later, the formal ceremony was held. Humanity was officially welcomed into the Covenant of United Species. The Grand Assembly Hall was filled to capacity. Representatives from every member species watched as Director Chen signed the historic documents. The celebrations lasted for weeks. Across the galaxy, humans and aliens met for the first time. There were misunderstandings. There were conflicts. There were moments when it seemed like the whole experiment might fail, but there were also moments of connection, of understanding, of friendship forming between beings who had never imagined finding common ground. Velreth watched it all with a mixture of hope and caution. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. Humanity was still dangerous, still capable of the violence that had defined their history. The true ascendancy was not destroyed, only weakened. Other challenges would arise. But he also knew something else now, something that had been missing from his understanding of the universe. Monsters were real. They existed in every species, in every heart, in the darkness of every soul. The galaxy was not as safe as he had believed. But there were also monster hunters, beings who had looked into their own darkness and chosen to fight it, beings who used their capacity for violence to protect the innocent instead of preying on them. Humanity was both, and somehow, impossibly, they had chosen to be guardians rather than destroyers. In his final report, Velrath wrote words that would be studied for generations to come. We spent millennia fearing what lurked in the dark between stars. We were right to fear, but we were wrong about what we would find. Humans are not the monsters we imagine. They are far worse and far better. They are the monsters who chose to guard the light. He paused, considering his next words carefully. May the cosmos have mercy on any who threaten what humanity has chosen to protect, because humans will not. He looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, human ships kept their silent vigil, watching, waiting, ready to face whatever threats might come. The galaxy had found its protectors, and for the first time in 10,000 years, Velreth truly believed that the future was bright. Not because danger had disappeared, it never would, but because there were now beings who would stand against that danger, who would fight for peace with all the ferocity that had once been reserved for war. Humanity had been given a chance to prove themselves, and they would spend every generation, every lifetime, every breath proving they were worth it. That was the promise they had made. That was the choice they made every day, and that made all the difference.